Hi, and welcome to Meetings in Math. You are here for 7.1 and 7.2b, Complementary and Supplementary Angles. Our essential question for today is, how can I classify angles? Today you will need your Jaguar chart on 7.1 and 7.2b. A pen or a pencil, a highlighter might be very useful today. A calculator can keep things moving along. Perseverance, a positive attitude, and always bring your problem-solving skills. We're going to start with a definition of supplementary angles. Supplementary angles sum to 180 degrees, and they may or may not be adjacent. Here's a diagram of supplementary angles. You'll notice that they're on a straight line, and therefore that's what makes them supplementary. So if you have angles that make a straight line, you'll know that they are supplementary. But again, they may not be adjacent, and so then you'll look for other clues, such as having angles written inside of them, like this. And then you'll actually need to check by adding them together and do they equal 180. And if they do, then you can conclude that they're supplementary angles. So now let's talk about complementary angles. Complementary angles sum to 90 degrees, and they may or may not be adjacent. So here's an example of adjacent complementary angles. And when the angles make a right angle, they are complementary. And how do I know that they made a right angle? They have that little box right there that tells you that it's a right angle. You might also have an example like this, where there are two angles that have information such as 15 degrees and 75 degrees. And when you see that, you need to add them together to find out whether or not they are 90 degrees. And if they are 90 degrees, then you do say that they are complementary. So these are two examples of complementary angles. So how do you keep supplementary angles and complementary angles and what they equal straight? I like to do it by using alphabetical order. 90 degrees comes first, complementary is alphabetically first, so they go together. Then supplementary is alphabetically second, and 180 comes second, so they go together. So if I keep those two ideas together, it helps me understand it just a little bit better. So while I have my way of remembering this, recently I heard another way that I really like, and I want to tell it to you. What I heard was, we remember that a corner is 90 degrees, and that way corner, complementary both start with a C, and so those are both 90 degrees. And we remember that a straight line is 180 degrees, and straight line and supplementary both start with an S, and so they're 180 degrees. And I really like this, and so I wanted to be able to tell you about it. So let's go to page 39 in your Jaguar charts, and let's use this diagram that we used in our previous notes to now answer some questions about complementary and supplementary angles. The first thing that we are going to do is we are going to name a pair of complementary angles. And remember, complementary angles mean that they equal 90 degrees. So if I look here, I'm going to go and try to find something that is 90 degrees. And what do I find that is 90 degrees is I look for the little box, which I see is right there. So the things that are 90 degrees is 3 and 4. Now, there may be other pairs of complementary angles there, and by all means, if you see them, identify them. But because we have the right angle, that is the most obvious pair of complementary angles. So now, let's name a pair of supplementary angles. So remember that a supplementary angle has a straight line. So which one here is going to give us a straight line? So we need a pair, so 2. So the one that is going to give us 2 would be right there. So that would be angles 1 and angles 6. That would be one example. Are there other examples? Yes, there are. 5 and 6 also gives us a straight angle. So we could also say angles 5 and angle 6. So anywhere that I could draw a straight line and have two angles, that would give us a pair of supplementary angles. So now we have two lines intersecting, and we want to find the value of B and C. So when we look at this, We have vertical angles happening and we have supplementary angles happening. So the first one that was probably the most apparent was the vertical angles. So B was equal to 42 degrees by vertical angles. And so if we remember, when you have the two lines that intersect, like there's one and here's one, then you can say you have vertical angles. So B was equal to 42 by vertical angles. So now let's go find out what C is. We know that C lies on a straight line with 42. So what do we know about lines that lie on a straight line? We know that lines that lie on a straight line are equal to 180. So by knowing that C is on a straight line with 42, we know that that is equal to 180. They're supplementary angles. And now we can solve this using our inverse operations. So we're going to subtract 42 from both sides. And so C is now equal to 138. And again, that is all because we know that C was on a straight line with 42. So now we have this one. Write and solve an equation, then find the measure of both the missing angles. So what do we know when we have a straight line? Again, we have a straight line, and what do we know then about 2x and 8x? Well, we know then that they must be supplementary. So 2x and 8x must equal 180 degrees. And now we just go about solving this as an equation. So 2x plus 8x is 10x. And then when I divide both sides by 10, I end up with x is equal to 18. So knowing that x is equal to 18, I now can go about solving my equation for measure of angle ABD and measure of angle DBC. And that's how I read these, is measure of angle ABD and measure of angle DBC. So now it's just substitution. I'm going to substitute 18 into 2x to find the measure of ABD. Substitute that in. 2 times 18 is 36. So the measure of ABD is 36. And now substitute 18 into the measure of DBC. So 8 times 18 is 144. So the measure of DBC is 144. So now on example number 4, I want to pay attention to what kind of relationship is happening with these two angles. And I can see that these two angles have a right angle. And what do we remember about a right angle? Is that a right angle is equal to 90 degrees. So that means that these two angles have to equal 90 degrees. And so that's how I'm going to write this equation. X plus 3x plus 10 is equal to 90 degrees because they are complementary angles. So understanding that, now I can start solving the equation. X plus 3x is 4x, and so then I'm going to subtract 10 off of both sides. So 4x is equal to 80, divide both sides by 4, and I get x is equal to 20. So now that I know that x is equal to 20, I'm going to substitute those both in for the variables. So let's start with the measure of ABD. Well, the measure of ABD is just x. So that just means that the measure of ABD is just 20. And then on the next one, the measure of DBC ends up being 3 times 20, which is 60, and 60 plus 10, which is 70. And then I can double check and make sure I did this right. What is 20 plus 70? 20 plus 70 is 90. I now know I did this right. So explain what the difference between complementary and supplementary angles are. That's what I would like you to do, is find somebody to explain that to. Thank you so much for joining us in complementary and supplementary angles. The big thing is that you understand complementary and supplementary. Complementary is 90 and supplementary is 180 degrees. I can't wait to see you in our next video. And remember, be nice to one another because we can all use some extra kindness in our lives. Bye for now.